Okay. So now we proceed to judicial supremacy. So last time na discuss natin kung ano ang checks and balances na nangyayari sa ating government. Ibig sabihin ng checks and balances, hindi lang basta ginagawa ng isang branch of government yung trip nila. Kumbaga, nagka-counter-checking din sila, nagpapakialamanan din sila from time to time. So now, dito naman tayo doon sa functions ng judiciary. So, judicial supremacy. Yan. Okay. So, here you are seeing kung ano ang levels ng iba't ibang courts dito sa ating bansa. So, at the lowest or the lowest court would be the Metropolitan Trial Courts. Ang mga Metropolitan Trial Courts ay nasa metro. Nasa mga Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, Metro Davao, yung mga yan. So, Metropolitan Trial Courts. And then we also have municipal trial courts in cities, katulad nung nabanggit ko last time. Ito ay mga municipal trial court, pero nandoon sila sa mga syudad. Okay? Municipal trial courts in cities, just like Angeles City. So, meron tayo MTCC, Municipal Trial Courts in Cities. And then we also have Municipal Trial Courts. So basically, ito ay mga trial courts na nasa municipalities. For example, Municipality of Arayat, Municipality of Porac, Guagua, and so on. Okay. And then Municipal Circuit Trial Court. So this is a municipal trial court, pero may sakop siyang ibang munisipyo, kaya circuit. Okay? O ulit, Metropolitan Trial Courts are courts that are in the metropolitan area, yung mga Metro Manila, Metro Davao. And then municipal trial courts in cities ay mga municipal trial court but are located in cities such as Angeles. And then municipal trial courts are courts located in municipalities. And then municipal circuit trial courts are or is a municipal trial court wherein sakop din niya or they also have jurisdiction in other municipalities. Okay. And then, katulad din ng nabanggit ko last time, ang mga Muslims may iba silang batas na sinusundan, the Sharia law. So, it is also, they also have a Sharia circuit courts. Ito ay mga korte kung saan ang ginagamit nilang batas ay yung Sharia law. So they use that as their basis for judgment, to render judgment. Okay, circuit kasi may sakop din silang ibang cities tsaka municipalities. And then, the next level ay regional trial courts. Ito yung sa mga laws na ginagamit natin. RTC, ang short natin dyan, short term para dyan. And then yung katapat naman niya doon sa Sharia law na pinatutupad ay yung Sharia district courts. So what happens if a certain uh, person would like to appeal their judgment? Gusto na lang subukan na ma-overturn pa yung guilty verdict sa kanila. So they would go up to the Court of Appeals. Dito na siya. Yan, sundan nyo lang tong linya. Court of Appeals. Then, ka-level ng Court of Appeals ay ang Sandigan Bayan for government officials na mataas na ang salary grade o mataas na ang rank, sabihin natin. And then, katapat din nila ang Court of Tax Appeals. So, well, from the name itself, ang mga kaso na dinirinig dyan ay patungkol sa tax. Kaya Court of Tax Appeals. And then, kapag gusto pa nilang umapila ulit, sabihin natin nagkaroon sila ulit ng guilty verdict, pwede pa silang mag-appeal doon na sa Supreme Court, which is considered as the highest court of the land. And whatever the Supreme Court uh, renders na judgment would be final. So, kapag sinabi ni Supreme Court ay not guilty, ibig sabihin, in-overturn niya yung mga decisions ng lower courts, ng Court of Appeals, ng regional trial courts, ay walang magagawa yung ibang court kasi nga siya ang highest court of the land. And kapag sinabi naman ni Supreme Court ay talagang guilty ka, then wala ka na ring magagawa. The judgment will just be continued. Okay? So, judicial review. Being the supreme law of the land, all government actions are tested against the Constitution. No act of government should violate the Constitution. Ito yung sinasabi natin na titignan ng Supreme Court kung kung nakasusunod ba o kung naka-anchor ba yung mga bills o yung mga laws rather, yung mga laws na inapprove ng executive branch na pinanukala nung nasa legislative branch. So, i-interpret ng judiciary kung naka-anchor nga ba sa Constitution. Kasi kung hindi naka-anchor sa Constitution, they would declare it, unconstitutional. So where a government act is unconstitutional or contrary to the Constitution, this means that such act is void and must be struck down. So which organ of government decides this? Whether the act is done by the legislature, as when the validity of a law is challenged, or by the executive when the validity of an executive act is examined, kasi ang president, meron din siyang legislative powers. Yun na nga, meron siyang kakayahan na mag-issue ng executive orders. So, usually, siguro mas familiar kayo kapag holiday. Kapag nagde-declare ng holiday, ay executive order yon. Hindi na kailangan maging Republic Act. Executive order lang siya. So, yun. Check din yan ng Supreme Court kung valid ba yun. So it is the judiciary that examines if such act conforms to the Constitution through the power of judicial review. And when the Supreme Court does exercise this power, it does not assert superiority over the legislature or the executive. Hindi ibig sabihin na in-examine ng isang batas, ang isang executive order ay supreme na ang judiciary branch of the government. Hindi siya ganon. Ang ibig lang sabihin, it merely performs its sacred task of allocating powers under the Constitution. Kumbaga, hindi ibig sabihin nun supreme na siya. Ang ginagawa niya lang trabaho niya. Okay? Parang police. Ang trabaho niya mag-aresto. Hindi ibig sabihin na inaresto ka, lahat ng arrest ay abuse of authority. Hindi siya ganun. Pag inarest ka, ginagawa lang ng police yung trabaho niya kasi wala namang ibang mag-aaresto sa'yo. Hindi naman pwede mag-aresto si judge. Hindi naman siya ang nanguhuli ng kriminal. Police ang may primary role or primary job na gawin yun, yung arrest. Okay? So, yan. The court merely does its job kapag ni-review niya yung mga laws and executive orders. And when the judiciary mediates to allocate constitutional boundaries, it does not assert any superiority over the other departments. It does not, in reality, nullify or invalidate an act of the legislature, but only asserts the solemn and sacred obligation assigned to it by the Constitution to determine conflicting claims of authority under the Constitution and to establish for the parties in an actual controversy the rights which that instrument secures and guarantees to them. This is in truth all that is involved in what is termed judicial supremacy, which properly is the power of judicial review under the Constitution. Ayun. Okay, sila ang magse-settle ng mga cases or ng mga issues ng government na merong conflict because their primary role is to interpret the law. Ano ba talagang ibig sabihin ng batas? Ano yung kagustuhan ng batas na magawa? Ayan. So in determining whether a law or act is invalid or not, it is the Supreme Court, which has the last word on the matter. So again, Supreme Court ang magdedesisyon kung valid or invalid ang isang batas. The Supreme Court, by tradition and in our system of judicial administration, has the last word on what the law is. Siya ang last say. It is the final arbiter of any justifiable controversy. The Supreme Court in Albert versus Court of First Instance in Manila. So, application niya. When the accused in a criminal case is convicted or found guilty of an offense, he may apply for probation. This means that the service of his sentence or of imprisonment is not implemented. If a person goes through probation, nasintensyahan siya, pero yung sentensya niya, hindi niya isa-serve sa loob ng kulungan. Isa-serve niya yon sa labas. Kumbaga, malaya siya, pero every month, chine-check siya. Nagre-report siya sa kanyang probation officer. This means that the service of his sentence of imprisonment is not implemented nga. Kasi nga, hindi siya mag-serve sa loob ng kulungan. Doon siya sa labas. Rather, his sentence is suspended subject to certain conditions. Examples of these conditions are that he must present himself regularly to a probation officer to ensure that he is conducting himself as a good citizen and is not violating any law. If he remains in good conduct, he will not be imprisoned. Otherwise, if he does not observe good behavior, his suspended sentence of imprisonment will be carried out. Yun na nga, di ba? Pag ikaw ay under probation na, hindi ka na magsaserve ng sentence sa loob ng kulungan. Sabihin natin, you were sentenced to 3 years. So, wala ka na sa loob ng kulungan, nasa labas ka na nga. Papaano kung 2 years ka nang nagsiserve ng sentence mo sa labas ng kulungan, tapos gumawa ka ng krimen, or na-violate mo yung conditions ng probation mo? Siyempre, hindi naman lahat ng threat mo gagawin mo. May mga conditions ang probation. So, na-violate mo yon. What will happen is that you will go back to jail or you will go back to prison and then start from day one. Hindi yung itutuloy mo yung sa probation. Kaya nababanggit dito, suspended ang sentence mo. Suspended yung pagsiserve mo ng sentensya mo sa loob ng kulungan. So kapag natapos mo naman ang probation mo, yung 3 years na yon, nandun ka sa labas, naging mabuting citizen ka, then tapos na ang sentensya mo. Yun na yun. In 1937, Supreme Court ruled on the constitutionality of Act 4221 or the Probation Act. The act is a law passed by the legislature, a co-equal branch, and the Supreme Court tested its validity against the Constitution. The Probation Act provided that it shall apply only in those provinces in which the respective provincial boards have provided for the salary of a probation officer. Ayun. But now, meron naman ng mga probation officers sa mga municipalities. So the Supreme Court ruled that the Probation Act was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court found that the law gave discretion to the various provincial boards across the country whether to provide for the salary of a probation officer or not. And in a locality where no salary is provided for a probation officer, there would be no probation officer. And the Probation Act would therefore not apply. Noon to ha. Hence, in Province A, the provincial board may approve the salary of a probation officer. And so the people who are convicted of a crime in that province may apply for probation. On the other hand, in another province, Province B, the provincial board may not provide for the salary of a probation officer. And so the people who are convicted of crimes in that province cannot enjoy the benefits of probation. So, dati, kung saan lang may probation officer, doon lang uh, kung saan probinsya lang may pasahod ng probation officer, doon lang pwedeng magkaroon ng, pwedeng mag-avail yung mga nasintensyahan na approve sa probation. Doon lang. So kung, for example, Angeles City ay walang, dito, kung sa Angeles City ay walang pasahod ng probation officer, then yung mga na-convict dito sa Angeles, hindi makaka-avail ng probation. So the Supreme Court found this unfair, di ba? Siyempre, ibig sabihin, porket wala kayong mapasahod sa probation officer, hindi na kami pwedeng mag-avail ng probation. So unfair siya, hindi siya nagiging patas sa lahat ng lugar sa bansa. So because this would violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. While several people in different provinces may be convicted for similar crimes with the same punishment, some may enjoy the benefits of probation, while others may not. Unfair siya, di ba? Simply because the province of the latter does not have a probation officer. So, in this example, hence, even if it was the legislature, a co-equal branch, which enacted the Probation Act, the Supreme Court struck it down for violating the constitutional rule on equal protection, which requires that persons similarly situated must be treated equally. So, yun, sinabi ng Supreme Court, unconstitutional yun. Okay. Judicial independence naman ang sunod. It is thus seen that the Supreme Court has delicate tasks to perform. It checks the validity of the acts of the other branches of government, which are its co-equals. The courts may also settle actual controversies or disputes among parties. It is therefore necessary that the judiciary be capable of operating independently so that it may dispense justice uniformly and without partiality. It must be insulated from circumstances which may affect its uniform dispensation of justice. Ibig lang sabihin, ang mga korte ay independent. Ibig sabihin kung ano yung desisyon nila, hindi sila pwedeng pakilaman. Kapag sinabi ng judge sa isang court na guilty yung kanyang dinirinig na kaso, yung offender doon sa dinirinig niyang kaso, then walang kahit sino ang pwedeng mag-overturn ng desisyon na yon. Kahit sino sa labas ng judiciary ha, hindi yung, kasi pwede nga mag-appeal. So kahit sino sa labas ng judiciary branch ay hindi basta-basta o hindi makakapag ano to, intervene sa decisions ng mga judges and justices natin. To this end, several mechanisms are employed in the Constitution to ensure such independence. Some of these examples are embodied in the following provisions of Article 8 of the 1987 Constitution. So sabi dito sa Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to define, prescribe, and apportion the jurisdiction of the various courts, but may not deprive the Supreme Court of its jurisdiction over cases enumerated in Section 5 hereof. No law shall be passed reorganizing the judiciary when it undermines the security of tenure of its members. What else? Section 3, the judiciary shall enjoy fiscal autonomy. Baga yung pera na na-appropriate sa judicial branch ay kanila lang. Appropriations for the judiciary may not be reduced by the legislature below the amount appropriated for the previous year, and after approval shall be automatically and regularly released. And then, the Supreme Court shall have the following powers: appoint all officials and employees of the judiciary in accordance with the civil service law. So, bahala si Supreme Court kung sino yung mga gusto niyang i-appoint na officials, mga nagtatrabaho under the judiciary. Siya ang magde-decide. And then, Section 6, the Supreme Court shall have administrative supervision over all courts and the personnel thereof. So, si Supreme Court ay pinaka namumuno, ang pinaka namumuno sa lahat ng mga korte sa buong Pilipinas, pati na rin sa mga nagtatrabaho sa korte. Mga judge, mga stenographers, mga sheriff sa loob ng court. So, under sila ng administration ng Supreme Court. And then the salary of the Chief Justice and of the Associate Justices of the Supreme Court and of judges of lower courts shall be fixed by law. During their continuance in service, their salary shall not be decrease. So, hindi pwedeng ang sahod mo ngayon ay mas mataas sa sasahurin mo next month. Okay? Kumbaga, hindi pwedeng mabawasan yung sahod nila. Basta tuloy-tuloy silang nagtatrabaho. Then the members of the Supreme Court and judges of lower courts shall hold office during good behavior until they reach the age of 70 years. 70 ang maximum age ng mga judges. Or become incapacitated to discharge the duties of their office. O kaya magkasakit sila or incapacitated in other ways. The Supreme Court and Bank. Pag sinabing Supreme Court and Bank, ibig sabihin lahat ng justices ng Supreme Court. Hindi lang ang Chief Justice, kundi lahat ng associate justices nila kasama. Yun yung and bank. So the Supreme Court and bank shall have the power to discipline judges of lower courts or order their dismissal by a vote of a majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case and voted thereon. The members of the Supreme Court and of other courts established by law shall not be designated to any agency performing quasi-judicial or administrative functions. Hindi sila pwedeng ilipat ng agency basta nagtatrabaho ka sa judiciary. Kasi nga meron silang judicial independence, hindi sila pinapakialaman. So application, in one case before Judge Virginia, one of the party litigants, Ben, was the best friend of Judge Virginia. Ben tried to influence Judge Virginia and requested Judge to decide the case in his favor. Instead of agreeing to the request of Ben, Judge Virginia voluntarily inhibited herself or refrained from hearing the case and requested that it be transferred to the sala of another judge. Big sabihin, itong judge na to, si Judge Virginia, friend niya itong si Ben. At dahil gusto niya maging fair, gusto niya maging impartial, so, ang ginawa niya, in-excuse niya yung sarili niya. She inhibited herself from the case para maging fair ang pagdinig dun sa kaso. Okay. Stare decisis. Ba't nilumili? Ayan. Stare decisis. Despite the principle of stare decisis, it is, however, possible for a judicial precedent to be set aside by the Supreme Court and bank. Yun na nga, and bank full membership, complete attendance in extraordinary circumstances. Pag sinabi kasing president, hindi yung presidente ng bansa, president, ibig sabihin nauna. Sabi dyan, judicial president, ibig sabihin na unang desisyon. Kumbaga, mayroong parehas na kaso at yung desisyon na yon, yung desisyon dun sa naunang kaso na yon is a judicial president. And ang mga judicial presidents or ang mga decisions ng Supreme Court also becomes law. Nagiging batas din sila, kaya ginagamit din sila ng mga lawyers during hearings or trials. And then, ang isang judicial president ay pwedeng hindi gamitin. Pwedeng iset aside ng Supreme Court and bank. And bank ha, kailangan lahat. In extraordinary circumstances. For example, your parents lay down certain rules to be observed by the members of the family, especially the children. They announce to all their children that when a child neglects to do his homework without justifiable reason, the child will not be allowed to watch television for 1 week. One time, your brother was given homework by his science teacher. However, he did not do it because he played basketball instead of studying. When your parents found out about the incident, he was not allowed to watch television for 1 week. The next month, it was your sister who failed to do her math homework over the weekend because she went to the mall with her friends. Again, when your parents found out about this, your sister was not allowed to watch television also for a week. Because of this incident, you know that if you fail to do your homework for no good reason, you will get the same punishment. On the other hand, if you fail to do your homework because you got very sick and were thus unable to study, nagkasakit ka, Your parents will understand and will not impose any punishment kahit na hindi mo nagawa yung assignment mo. The situation is not neglecting your duties. Sa ganitong pagkakataon, hindi mo naman talaga pinabayaan yung pag-aaral mo, yung obligasyon mo. Hindi mo rin siguro ginusto. Kaso nga nagkasakit ka, kaya hindi mo nagawa yung assignment mo. Eh dahil nga sa sakit na yon, hindi ka na pinatawan ng parusa ng magulang mo. Kahit na pare-pares lang kayong magkakapatid na hindi nagawa yung inyong homework. Alright?